I remember the day of the surgery so vividly, as if it were etched into my mind with indelible ink. The sterile smell of the hospital, the bright fluorescent lights that seemed to buzz with an unnatural energy, and the way my heart raced with a mix of hope and dread. I had spent months preparing for this moment, researching, reading, praying. My husband, my best friend, was about to undergo a double lung transplant. It was supposed to be a new beginning for him. For us, we had fought so hard against the relentless tide of his illness. And now, finally, we were on the brink of something that could save him. I sat in that waiting room, surrounded by the muted sounds of beeping machines and hushed conversations. I clutched my phone, scrolling through messages from friends and family who were sending their love and support. "You're so strong," they said. "He's going to be okay." I wanted to believe them. I wanted to believe that this was the turning point, that we would emerge from this ordeal stronger than ever. But then, as the hours dragged on, a gnawing anxiety began to creep in. I tried to push it away, focusing instead on the images of our life together. The laughter, the late-night talks, the dreams we had shared. I thought about how he had fought so hard to stay alive, how he had never given up. Even when the odds were stacked against him, I thought about how much I loved him, how much I needed him to come through this. When the surgeon finally emerged, my heart leapt into my throat. He looked tired, his face drawn and serious. "The surgery went well," he said, and relief washed over me like a wave. I could breathe again. But then he continued, "He's in recovery now, but there are some complications we need to monitor." My heart sank. Complications? I had prepared myself for the worst, but hearing those words felt like a punch to the gut. I spent the next few hours pacing the waiting room, my mind racing with worst-case scenarios. I tried to distract myself, scrolling through social media, but every post felt like a reminder of what I was losing. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I texted him, hoping for a response, but there was nothing, just silence. As night fell, I finally got the call that he was stable and in a room. I rushed to his side, my heart pounding with a mix of relief and fear. He looked so fragile, lying there with tubes and monitors surrounding him. I took his hand, feeling the warmth of his skin against mine, and I whispered, "I'm here. I love you." But as the days passed, something began to shift. He was recovering, but I felt a distance growing between us. He was physically present, but emotionally, he seemed miles away. I tried to talk to him, to connect, but he would often drift off, lost in his own thoughts. I brushed it off as the effects of the medication, the trauma of the surgery. I wanted to be patient, to give him the space he needed to heal. Then came the day when I found the messages. I had borrowed his phone to look up something, and there it was, a thread of texts that made my stomach drop. Flirting, innuendos, plans to meet up. My heart shattered in an instant. I felt like I had been punched in the gut, like the ground had been pulled out from under me. How could he do this to me? How could he betray me during such a vulnerable time? I confronted him, my voice shaking with anger and hurt. "How could you?" I demanded, tears streaming down my face. "You were in surgery, fighting for your life, and you were texting her." He looked at me, confusion etched on his face, as if he couldn't comprehend the gravity of what he had done. "It was just a distraction," he said, his voice weak. "I didn't mean anything by it." But that didn't matter. The betrayal cut deeper than any physical wound. I felt like I was drowning, gasping for air in a sea of pain and disbelief. I had stood by him through every moment of his illness, every sleepless night, every tear. I had sacrificed so much for him, and this was how he repaid me. I wanted to scream, to throw things, to make him feel the weight of what he had done. But instead I just stood there, numb. I felt like I was watching a movie unfold, like I was outside my body, unable to process the reality of the situation. I had always believed that love could conquer all, that we could weather any storm together. But this felt like a betrayal that I couldn't come back from. Days turned into weeks, and the distance between us only grew. I tried to be there for him, to support him through his recovery. But every time I looked at him, all I could see was the betrayal. I felt like I was living with a stranger, someone who had taken my husband's place while he was in surgery. The man I loved was gone, replaced by someone who had shattered my trust. I began to question everything. Was our love real? Had it ever been? I replayed every moment in my mind, searching for signs, for clues that I had missed. I felt like I was losing my mind, trapped in a whirlwind of emotions that I couldn't escape. I wanted to forgive him, to move past this. But every time I tried, the pain would resurface, sharper than before. I started to pull away, to create distance between us. I needed to protect myself, to find a way to heal. I began to spend more time with friends, seeking solace in their company. I poured myself into work, trying to distract myself from the reality of my life. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't escape the truth. He had cheated on me during the most vulnerable moment of our lives, and I was left to pick up the pieces. I felt like I was standing at a crossroads, unsure of which path to take. Could I ever trust him again? Could we ever go back to the way things were? The answers eluded me, and I was left with a heart full of questions and a soul weighed down by betrayal. I had fought so hard for him, for us, and now I was left wondering if it had all been in vain. I wanted to believe in the possibility of healing, of forgiveness, but the scars ran deep, and I wasn't sure if I could ever truly move on. So here I am, standing at the edge of a precipice, staring into the abyss of uncertainty. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know one thing. I will never forget the day my husband cheated on me during his double lung transplant surgery. It was the day my world shattered, and I was left to pick up the pieces, alone.